I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Hornady Podcast. I'm your host, Seth, and I'm joined today by the other guys in the group that make this podcast possible. To my left, Judd, Jarzynka. Across the table, Preston, Lentfer. Guys, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, good to be back on.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Now, I do mean that this is the crew that makes the podcast happen. I really don't do anything other than run my suck here, but you guys, from being involved in the podcast, coming up with topics, interviewing guests, doing all that, and then everything behind the scenes, the cameras, editing, all the stuff that gets this thing uploaded into the interwebs, that's really you guys. And so we, as a group, appreciate all you guys do for us, as a marketing team, as a company, and as just an end user. I enjoy listening to our podcast as well. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's actually pretty fun. Got no qualms with it whatsoever. And it's a great way to get information out that you may not typically get out. There's no easy way to do it. The podcast is a great way to get those deep dives.
Yep, nice long form stuff where you can really go in depth and learn a lot. And I think of Judd when I think about this is, when I say learning a lot, in doing this and kind of hosting the show, we've had the opportunity to have some really amazing guests on. And, I look back at like Jeff Nimnick, for example. I learned so much from that guy because Judd was pencil and paper. All right, I got a coyote problem at my house, and what do I need to do to take care of this kind of thing? And it's been really cool to be a part of that and to learn a lot as the host, because I think we can all agree doing this podcast was significantly more work than we anticipated it would be.
I can second that.
Yeah, Preston, I'm sure you can. And like you said, Seth, or I'm going to disagree with you. You bring the conversation, the talking points. You bring a lot to the table. On Preston's side, because he's primarily the editor, I hope everybody appreciates the quality edit and the quality sound. Preston, you are a stickler for quality audio. So
I take good pride in good sound.
I hope everybody appreciates that. But yeah, it's been a big undertaking, but I hope it's been enjoyed, and from some of the numbers that we have, we think it's doing okay. So.
Yeah,
and this is kind of this is the end of season 1 year of the Hornady Podcast right now.
Yeah,
we've done 52 episodes, full episodes with a couple of bonuses in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want to say thank you to the listener for tuning in and commenting and being a part of the community. And then also, I think we want some feedback from you too.
The interaction has been great to see, and it's been steadily increasing and increasing and increasing to the point where now it's like, we're getting some good feedback with plenty of engagement, and we're getting ideas and topics and suggestions. So that's pretty awesome. Now, before we get into that, because that's where I want to spend a bunch of time on this show, I can't continue to talk about anything before we address the fact that this is the last episode of season 1, and it's tomorrow's,
Correction.
Yeah.
This is the first episode of season 2.
Now I'm all messed up. All right. So as the first episode of season 2, we are still in the year of 2022, and there is still some hunting going on.
Yeah.
All over the country. And right here at home.
Yeah, 1 day left.
1 day left.
For you buck hunters in Nebraska.
For the buck hunters in Nebraska and any other late season stuff going on, get out there with the old smoke pole. I just got back from a hunt yesterday here in Nebraska. Unsuccessful. Had the boar driver ELDX out there.
Unsuccessful in the fact that nothing was harvested.
Unsuccessful in that, the tag went unnotched, and that's my last hunt for the year. I saw all the deer. I mean, in the evening alone, from the hours of about 3 to 5 p.m., saw over 50 different deer, and that was amazing. Saw 2 bald eagles, coyotes, 100 turkeys. I mean, it was just a great day to be in the woods. Big, fat, wet snowflakes. Then the sun came out. It was just gorgeous. So
that's what you dream of with the late season.
Oh, my gosh. And the animals, when that sun came out, about 4 o'clock, you want to talk about coming out of the woodwork. There was stuff pouring out. My head hurt. I was spinning around in circles trying to keep track of, there's a new one over there. What's that? It was just It was great. So before we continue on, I want to hear if there's any last minute stuff, because guy over here, he's been known to be the New Year's buck.
/ consume a great amount of deer throughout the year.
Yeah, you have an obligation
You might
now.
have some catching up to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Judd, what's your...
Yeah, I've had a slow deer season, I guess I would say, as far as harvest goes. Just had a busy year. Ended up getting married in the middle of the hunting season, and
I'm still sore from polka dancing.
yeah, that's true. It was
I'm
a party.
sore for other reasons, but that was a great party.
Yeah, it was a party. So anyway, that took a lot of time, so I wasn't able to get out much. So yeah, Courtney and I are looking to do some catching up here.
Well, your darling bride took the biggest doe I've ever seen in my life here.
So this last Monday, which was, I guess, the Christmas weekend, we had Monday off from work. So Courtney herself actually got permission on a new piece of ground. She did it all herself, so that was pretty cool too. So she was archery hunting it a little bit, and yeah, just not having much luck, not being able to get close enough. So that Monday we switched over, took the muzzleloader out, and man, the place is loaded with deer. And it was a picked bean field, which was kind of surprising for me. You know, if I had my option, I'm sitting over a picked cornfield right
Especially
now.
with the weather we had.
Yeah, exactly. And it was cold. But I think this place, it's just kind of secluded. There's not much pressure. The family hunts it during the rifle season, so for the last handful of weeks, it's been untouched. So the deer were piled in there, and they're using that picked bean field, which was kind of wild. But yeah, we had an opportunity at a first group that walked by us, and as you were mentioning, Seth, you kind of seem to find that. You know, my experience hunting the late season, you're finding the deer, and it's a group of deer, or you're not seeing anything because they're kind of herded up. So yeah, we were in the spot because we had one group work by us, and it just, for whatever reason, those deer wanted to be in the center of the field. So they'd come out on the edge, and they were on a mission.
Probably eating their way out, you know.
Well, they really weren't, and that's what I expected them to do. So they'd give us a shot.
Well, no, I mean, they probably ate, and then now there's nothing here. We're going out further.
Yeah, that's a good option, or an option that could have happened. But yeah, anyway, they were boogieing, like on a mission to get to the middle. So, and we were in a blind, which was another perk. This place has blinds on it, so we were able to hunt out of an elevated blind. But the issue of that, maybe it's because I don't have much experience from blind hunting, but I don't really like it so where they came out, we were in one window. Okay, and then they start making their way. Well, now we got to pull the tripod over and pull the muzzleloader back in and out this one, switching windows. And by the time we would get set, they would be to the next window. So then you'd have to, I don't know, that was kind of a struggle. I'm sure there's, have I done it more? Maybe we'd have been able to pull off that first shot. Anyway,
could have mapped them.
Yeah, we probably could have, but anyway, it just didn't work out on that first group. Lucky enough, the deer were just in there. So that group of like 8 deer moved on, and it wasn't 2 minutes. Here comes another wave. So yeah, we were fortunate to be in a good spot, and there was this one doe in there that we knew she was big,
looked like a small elk.
Well, yeah, but so. That first group, they were kind of all the same size, so we were trying to pick out, and that was probably an issue too. We were trying to pick out, okay, which one's the biggest one? Let's go for that one. And they were kind of mixing around, and you'd lose which one you were looking at. This doe in that second group, you never lost her.
It was a no-brainer.
She was bigger than the rest, so she was easy to keep our eye on, and probably why we were successful. But anyway, yeah, it was a 77-yard shot with a muzzleloader with the new board driver ELDX. So, and it was kind of one of those things. Our communication was off a little bit. I wasn't expecting her to shoot exactly when she did, so I kind of panned with my binos back over the whole group because the buck season was still open.
Mm-hmm.
So we were going in. We wanted a doe, but if there was a buck to show up, maybe we'd switch our targets and go after the buck. So that was my thought process. I kind of panned with my binos back to the edge of the woods, thinking maybe a buck was coming. And as I was panning back onto that big doe, kaboosh!
Let him have it.
Yeah, and it scared the crap out of me. But luckily I was on it, and I saw the doe, even through the smoke of the muzzleloader. She barreled down and kind of bulldozed for a couple steps and then stood up and just trotted into the edge of the timber. But, you could easily tell she was
hard.
hit. And anyway, we tracked her, found blood, tracked her to the edge of the trees, and she wasn't 8 yards into the edge of the trees.
Wow.
And then we walk up to her. Holy cow, she was just huge. I mean, she had a big head, her hair was long, so she was fluffy, and just her stomach area, her torso, her everything was just huge and kind of blubbery, for lack of a better term.
She's a good breeder.
Yeah, she was huge. But back to the board driver ELDX, that was the first hunt that I've been on with that new bullet, and holy cow, did that thing do some damage.
Yeah.
So, and we lucked out. Her shot placement was maybe a touch back, but still in lungs and kind of high, so it didn't really ruin any meat, but holy cow. The punch through one rib on the front side, and the back side, it blew a hole.
Bigger than a golf ball.
Yeah, bigger than a golf ball.
Sized,
So, she was toast.
And that's a testament to just the design process of it, or the design of it. A lot of muzzleloader bullets at that distance, at that speed, they're not exiting.
No, they
But
turn
those board
inside
drivers
out.
do.
Oh yeah, it was gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. I guess I didn't think about that, because we've talked about, like, Ryan Damon on the antelope. He took a farther shot, and I don't know if we've heard of anybody 100 yards in. So this.
Well, the original board driver, you shot 98 or
103.
102.
Oh yeah.
You never forget a number.
I think it was 103.
But that one was in and out too, with
Yeah.
pretty good velocity going behind it, and
Yeah.
some of the stuff I used before I worked here, you're not getting an exit
No,
at that distance.
they fold right inside out.
Yeah.
in a hurry.
So I want to say one more thing. I'm stuck on the board driver ELDX now, but the thing that really jumped out about on that bullet, compared to, and I shot the board driver FTX and it was similar, but it just hit me again loading that thing. It loaded
and easy.
so easy. Holy cow! So yeah, that was, I was blown away by that. That was the first time I actually loaded them in my muzzleloader, and it was, I almost wasn't. About sent it through. So yeah, it loaded so easy. And then I shot, so we checked the gun before we went, shot 3 shots. So I loaded the 4th shot right when we got out of the pickup to walk to the stand. And even that 4th shot, after shooting it 3 times, zipped right down. So that sucker loaded so easy.
Yeah. Well, we've got 1 day left of season, and you're going back out?
So yeah, we're kind of, I was just talking to you guys on the way out here. Courtney got permission on this new spot, and I kind of have a spot that I've hunted for years now.
Put a lot of work into.
And 2 years ago, I pulled off the New Year's Eve buck on a cornfield, and just so happens this year, the crop rotation is back to that same field. And I do have a trail camera out there that's been picking up some deer, but I hunt this property with a buddy of mine, and he's been watching that field every evening. It seems like he's out there, and it's filling up with deer. So
it could be time.
If the stars aligned, but I've only got one muzzleloader, and Courtney wants to take one too, so I might have to,
hey, we got
to
a
grab
solution
one here
for that.
from the shop.
It just so happens the
take it.
muzzleloader I took yesterday, what is it, Traditions Pursuit?
Traditions Pursuit.
It's ready to go. It's dialed in. I've got your drops. I've got powder preloaded. I mean, I've got it ready to go. It's turnkey for you to go get a New Year's Eve buck. That'll be awesome. We'll be cheering for you, because hey, that field's filling up. It's back to corn. The stars are aligned. Saturn's blocking Jupiter. Your brow chakra is, things are going great.
Yeah. Well, the only kicker will be, I don't know if I can hold out for a buck, because like I said, we usually like to have 4-ish deer in the freezer going into the spring, so or late winter, I guess. So
The doe will be out there at last light too.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
promise.
That's true. But yeah, so the way I hunt this property, and it's right on 2 different deer hunting units, and it's right on the line. So where I have to go on the north side, I actually don't have an antlerless tag.
Oh, it's got to be a buck.
So where the deer are piling out, I can't shoot a doe after Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So that muzzleloader tag, which is a buck or an antlerless tag, it might turn into an antlerless tag pretty quick, because otherwise I'm done where the deer are coming out. Where I hunt south of that is beans, and for whatever reason, that place in the other place Courtney's hunting, they were hammering the beans. This place, that isn't true. So it's been a ghost town where the beans are, where I have an antlerless tag.
Yeah.
So Yeah, we'll see what happens on Saturday night.
At a minimum, though, you're getting out. You're not letting, the New Year's Eve festivities get to you. You're getting more time in the field and just being out there. It's cold. The animals are moving. The squirrels are all bloated up. It's just fun to be out there and see the woods. Preston, you got a day left of season as well. What's going on?
Yeah, I may go out.
You may go out.
We'll see.
Any game plan?
Not really. I've had a pretty decent fall. I shot 2 antelope, one in Nebraska, one in Wyoming. My favorite game meat. I may get some flack for this. I already have.
Not for me, you won't.
No, but it's way better than elk.
Of course.
So I got two antelope, and then I shot 1 buck during rifle season. Pretty decent little kind of, again, where I hunt down there, I shoot weird deer, and this is kind of a weird deer. But I don't necessarily need the meat, but I may just go out for posterity's sake.
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
Posterity is doing something for your lineage, if you will.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so you want your kids to know that, hey, the last day of season, Dad was out there.
You better be out there. Yeah, so I might. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck. If nothing else, it's fun just being out there.
Yeah, it is.
And that's a good way to lead into, season 1 or season 2, episode 1 is kind of a year in review. Well, this is also a year in review of us hunting and kind of recapping how our years went. And then, we still got a day left of season. This is how it's ending. So now switching gears here to, the podcast. So that season 1, we really had no idea what we were doing, which in hindsight, watching some of those, pretty evident. But either way, we were just,
as far as like topics go,
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Trying to find a path. It seems like I think where we're getting with this is,
what do people want to hear?
Initially, we shot. We did interviews with this person. We did interviews with this person. We'd talk about our hunting trip. We'd talk about a new product. We were all over the board, which maybe is something
cast a wide net.
Yeah,
as you might say.
Well, that's kind of how we started, but is that going to be different for season 2 here?
I think it is, because I think we learned what you, the listener, actually want to hear. And the first couple episodes, we're employed at Hornady Manufacturing. Well, there are people whose last name is Hornady that own this company, and so we felt kind of almost an obligation, but it was more than that, to interview those guys, to get a good look behind the curtain with Jason and Steve Hornady, and that was episode 1 and 2. And when I look back at our, my favorite episodes, I have to say those 2 were right up towards the top, because as an employee-employer relationship, you don't always get to see the personal level of the president and vice president of the company, and they were great guests on the show because they did open up. I
don't want to prop you up too much, but you did a great job interviewing them. You gave them questions that they've never had before in an interview.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was really cool too.
Yeah, and those episodes, from a popularity standpoint, they've got a ton of traction. And it could be just because people are finding the show and they start with episode 1 and 2, maybe, I don't know. But I feel like that was a good way to start the show, and I really enjoyed doing it. And as it progressed, we tried, like you said, casting a wide net. We started interviewing, some shooting sport celebrities. We had Chad Mendez on, for example, and just getting a bunch of notable names in the industry, and those went well. But I feel like we really found the niche of what you, the listener, want to hear, and that was with product-specific podcasts, product-specific deep dives.
Yeah, and some really, really, honestly, to me, it was quite astonishing numbers of the views on YouTube. Maybe not listens of podcasts. The stats for the podcast are pretty even keel, but the views on YouTube is where things kind of separate. And 6 ARC was huge. 7mm PRC obviously was huge.
Yeah.
300 PRC, stuff like that. And there's some low hanging fruit that we've not done yet.
Yeah, we will.
As well.
But talking about those specific podcasts, our top 5 podcasts on YouTube in random order: 6 ARC, 6.5 PRC, 7 PRC, the CX bullet, and the 300 PRC.
Yep.
So that's what you guys are interested in, seeing the technical and the science side and the why behind the design really resonated well. And if that's something you still want more of, you got to let us know. The data seems to indicate that, but we want to know about it. So yeah, drop a comment,
Drop
send
a
us an
comment.
email.
Yep. Shoot us an email, podcast@hornady.com.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that, just to throw this in also, we may not have the time to comment back. We try to get to as many comments as we possibly can. But again, aside from the podcast, we kind of all have our own other jobs to do, let alone monitor the comments and answer comments. So we do our best. But we do see all the comments.
Yeah.
So any comment you guys post, we'll take any kind of feedback into consideration and try to get a better product out.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I think we kind of found our rhythm here as we began this series. Again, what we're affectionately referring to as Quinlan's Corner, but we kind of took a broad look at the study of ballistics, and we started really early with the history of ballistics, and we kept paring that down and diving deeper and deeper and deeper into things, and then now we've really culminated that with our sample size podcast, our 4DOF podcast, and we took a lot of feedback from each episode and used it to form the next episode of throughout that study.
Yeah, that really helped big time.
It really did. I think, getting the feedback and answering questions that people actually had rather than giving them information that they maybe didn't want, we were able to tailor that. So I feel like throughout that ballistic study, we were able to consciously manipulate the stuff we were putting out so that it catered to what you actually wanted to hear as the listener. And that study of ballistics, man, every single episode hit really, really well. The numbers were great on every one of those episodes.
Yeah, and we got some really smart cookies here. I mean, I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but Jaden, Quinlan, Miles in engineering, Jacob in ballistics, these
Joe.
guys, these guys are living it. And it seems like some listeners, some viewers, some commenters are a little bit closed-minded, but as you alluded to in the last podcast, if you don't gain one thing from listening to this or watching this, it's that we're passionate shooters and hunters, and that's why we're doing it. We're not doing it to sell something. We don't make something just to sell it.
Right.
We don't do that.
We make something to use it.
So that we can use it.
Yeah.
So, we're not trying to force anything upon anybody. It's not a marketing scheme. This is some stuff that they've tried, and we're just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Feel free to take it however you want.
I've put this out. I was getting interviewed for a magazine article. I forget exactly what the topic was, but I told the guy, yes, Hornady has a marketing team to market our products, just like almost every other company in existence. I don't care how many magicians are on a marketing team, though. You can't prop up a product that doesn't stand on its own.
Yep.
And if you can only do it for so long. So we're trying to make products that we want to use. A great example of that, the 190CX bullet. That bullet specifically was one of the first ones when Jaden and I and the rest of the team were working on the CX, or what turned out to be the CX project. It was like, well, I shoot a 300 PRC. This isn't me talking, but just kind of the collective group of the ballistic development group. Shoot a 300 PRC. I'd love to shoot a monolithic bullet, but drag characteristics just kind of rule it out for me. What if we make one that's similarly shaped to a really heavy match bullet? Well, if we put two cannelers on it, maybe we could put one on there and get some of that drag back. So we were developing a product that we wanted to hunt with that turns out, most people want to hunt with as well. And again, yeah, we've hit on it a lot, but man, we're here because we want to be. We're here because we're trying to develop products that we want to hunt. And we want to talk about stuff on the podcast that you actually want to hear. So, like I said, the deep dives into specific products, cartridges, bullets, etc., that seems to do really well. And along with the study of ballistics, one of the most popular ballistics podcasts was actually internal ballistics, which is interesting. I thought about that for a while, and my conclusion is there's really no source of information on internal ballistics that's modern and up to date and actually, true. Where do you go to get internal ballistics information if you're not in the industry? If you don't have this, the piezoelectric pressure reading equipment, where do you get that?
Yeah, and what's amazing is powder since I've started at Hornady 7 years ago, how many different new powders and technologies are we seeing in that?
It's great.
And nobody's really writing about it. Nobody's doing deep dives on it, but at least we can open the curtain a little bit
Yep, peel it back. So after talking about that, I want to ask you guys, before we talk about what's in the future for Hornady Podcast, looking back on the Hornady Podcast, are there notable shows that you either listened to, edited, or participated in that stand out to you as what was your personal favorite? Not that was best for the viewer or the listener, but on an individual note, when you look back, like, wow, I'm glad I was a part of that one, or that was really cool or interesting. What jumps out to you guys?
I'll run with it. So
Yeah.
I've got a couple. I've got, and you kind of hit on it, but the Jeff Nimnick episode, because that was me asking him personal questions that I wanted to know to better my coyote hunting, my coyote calling. So that one really stuck out with me. But the one that I still really like, and it may not have been one of the more popular ones, but just being a Hornady employee and being around these guys, was with Mike Jensen and Lowell Hawthorne. Just knowing those guys and being around them. Those guys are so cool and so knowledgeable, and I just enjoy being around those guys. So that episode with those two,
And hearing their old stories
Yeah.
from way back in the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, not the beginning, but
they
the
worked
beginning
with
for them.
Joyce Hornady.
Yeah. So that one is still my favorite, because now since Lowell has retired, and Mike Jensen, I believe, still hanging on.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I don't
He won't
know
retire
if he's
till he
go-
gets
We'll
old.
probably kick him out.
Yeah, exactly, till he gets old.
Yeah.
You got to say the one line about Mike Jensen, and I can't remember which episode it was, but it was probably the first 10 or 15.
Oh, Mike.
Anyway,
We can look.
see if you look that up. Give Mike Jensen's line about whitetail hunting.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's a Western mule deer
Yeah,
hunter,
so-
and I'm a whitetail guy, and I still laugh at this because it's true and it's funny.
Yeah. So Mike Jensen just grew up and as a young man doing fun, adventurous stuff, racing dirt bikes and doing that kind of thing. And then he got, he's hunting the sandhills, and he's hunting Colorado and Wyoming and Utah. And now he's going to Alaska, and he's hunting bears and mountain goats and just all kinds of crazy adventurous stuff, and talking about sitting in a tree stand hunting whitetail. Now, Whitey is 60.
I don't know his age.
7,
but
8,
yeah.
something like that. Maybe not that old. 66.
Yeah.
So you're gonna
Old
say
enough to retire.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, talking to you about whitetail hunting, and Judd's getting jacked up or whatever, and sitting in a tree stand, and Whitey's like, yeah, maybe I'll do that when I get old one day.
Yeah. Oh, it was so funny.
Yeah, so here's Judd in his prime, getting pumped up, hunting, and not to discredit that, because there's an immense amount of challenge in what you do. But yeah, here's Judd in his prime, 30 years old, and here's Mike past retirement age. Yeah, maybe I'll sit in a tree stand when I get old.
Yeah, and he still hasn't done it, so
No.
I don't know when that's coming.
He's a very very interesting man. And what I love about those guys, and I'm not sure if it came through in the podcast or not, but I'm sure we touched on it, was how much knowledge they have and how well they transfer that knowledge to other people, and how willing they are to do that. And just the culture and the conversation, and these guys are just gentlemen all the way around. They're a man's man, and they're just awesome guys. So that I didn't even think about that, Judd, but
That's episode 10. If you've not listened to it, go back and listen to it or watch it on YouTube. That's a fantastic episode.
it is. They had their hand in so many cool things, like the XTP bullet, and Whitey helped making the interlock ring, and
Since the late 70s, they've been here.
so they've had their hands in a lot of cool projects, and that is a great episode, Judd. Great episode. Thanks for
Good
bringing
call.
that one up.
Yep. If I had to pick, ever since I started here, you sucked me down this rabbit hole of long range. So the easy answer is any Quinlan's Corner episode. I'm a big fan of, and it's something that I really, really enjoy watching as I edit. And like, I'll even though I watch it and I was here when it was filmed, I'll still go back and listen to those.
I do the same.
But if I had to say one, it's going to be episode 41, which is product development, covert and overt.
yeah,
And I really like that stuff because it kind of gives you a behind the scenes, and that's something we're not big. We're a bigger company, but we're a small company at the same time. You know what I'm saying? like,
We have a big footprint, but we don't have a big foot.
yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that. So getting to see behind the curtains a little bit and talking about specific projects and stuff and how it was reacted to by, the people down the hall, and it's just cool. I like that one.
That was a neat podcast because we had a full table.
Yeah, there's 5 people here. We sucked this back out, and you were
Yeah.
over here. You're
Yeah.
king
We
of
had
the castle.
Marketing director,
I have a
engineering
chair.
director, assistant director of engineering. Who else was on that one?
Jason.
Yeah, Jason Hornady
Jason, yeah.
himself. Yeah, it was just that was a cool podcast to talk about how things get developed, because I feel like some people assume that because of the size of our footprint, we have a product development board and we're running ideas up the chain and
There's a specific product development laboratory within the unlimited amount of money.
And in reality, a lot of the new products are just like, this is really cool. I want to pursue this a little bit further. You cool if I run this to ground? Yep, have at it. And next thing you know, we're developing cool stuff.
Yep. Or you don't even really ask it, and you just present a product.
Yeah, or you ask and they say, nah, no, and you kind of do it anyway, and then next thing you know, it's a super successful product. Yeah, it's kind of cool how that worked out. And it was great to get Jason on. That's as the listener out there, if you guys want more involvement from Jason and Steve, obviously they've got a very busy schedule, and it's kind of tough to make things line up. However, if you want to hear more out of those guys, let us know, because they're still employees too, and they still got some cool stuff to talk about. And if you want more of them,
Oh, they're more than willing. Yep.
yeah, they really are, and it just takes us coordinating it. Yeah, so let us know if you want more out of the upper echelons of management.
How about you? Host with the most.
The host with the most.
What was your favorite one to do? I mean,
So we've got Jason and Steve, like I mentioned. That was just cool. Again, Jason probably has a little bit more of an active involvement with the rest of the managers within the company.
Sure.
So I have more experience just being around him and whatever. But doing his interview was really interesting. I learned a lot about his background and stuff. But honestly, I think the Steve Hornady one, where I have really I know him, and I know the basic story of how things came to be, but I didn't know he was a cowboy.
yeah.
You're right.
Me neither.
In the sense of the word, that he was, putting up hay for the winter and branding calves and doing all kinds of crazy stuff out in Montana. I didn't know any of that. And it was neat getting that insight from him. And I think it made me more appreciative of the company as a whole, seeing how many different times that this company could have taken a different route, but it didn't. And,
steered and stayed on course.
Yeah. And, made me proud to work here and proud to say that, he's the president of the company. So that was cool to get that insight. Looking back on other episodes that I think that I had the most fun being in, they've all been fun. I'll say that much. Like, this is as much of a job as anything else, but it's always fun. I always end up taking my headset off going like, holy cow, it's like stepped in a time vacuum. How did that take that long?
Yeah.
And, I learned a lot, and we're talking about it as we're driving back to the office or whatever. But I think taking the deep dives into product-specific stuff is cool. I think for me personally, the 7PRC podcast was probably my favorite, not because of the actual meat and potatoes of the podcast, but it was really neat for me to see the early development of that cartridge and doing the initial load work and playing around with that cartridge and being one of the first to have my hands on it years ago and help with the design process, and then to see it transition into, okay, it got the green light to be a new product, and then I had changed roles within the company and now I'm helping to get this product off the ground, and I met with every single rifle builder and manufacturer that was going to chamber that rifle before it was officially launched, and could speak to the cartridge's merits. And I sent out care packages to everybody that wanted to build a gun, that they could start building guns and start testing, and then to do the initial marketing efforts, and then to see it be such a out of the gate success. That was really cool for me. And then so to summarize all that in the podcast, looking back on it, this is of the products that I helped work on when I was doing R&D with Jaden and the crew in the lab. that individual one was, to me, the coolest one to be a part of. And like I said, I think that's my
Yeah,
favorite.
it's probably kind of cool to cram a bunch of information into roughly an hour, knowing that you have dozens upon perhaps hundreds of hours vested in development and then the marketing of that.
Yeah.
That cartridge, which doesn't really need marketed.
No.
I mean, there's still some people that don't understand what we do, and this is kind of a little tangent, but as far as cartridge design goes, we're not going to make the fastest trip down the strip kind of a cartridge. That's not our thing. We know the benefits of efficient case design and chamber geometry. It's just...
Yep. And I think, again, tangentially, to go down this rabbit hole, I have to assume that we haven't done a good enough job of explaining this to people, although this podcast has really helped. One thing we have to consider when we design a product is, it's a made-up word, but I'm going to say manufacturability. We have to make this thing work. If we run, I don't know, pick a number, 500,000 rounds of a given cartridge a year, and we run this cartridge for 20 years, well, how many millions of rounds are you going to make? We want 1 through however many million to all be the same if we can. We have to consider manufacturability, which is why we design cartridge the way we do. They're going to be forgivingly accurate. The design dimensions are specifically chosen to allow them to be accurate, consistent, balanced, all those things you want without sacrificing the external and terminal performance. So a lot of people may appear closed-minded because they don't understand that. And then there are a lot of, just kind of older generation closed-minded folks that, some giant cartridge with a lot of powder going real fast is obviously the answer because look how much drop it doesn't have. But again, completely tangential.
Hey, if that works for them,
shoot it.
Great.
Yeah.
What was my line I said on one of the episodes that look good, shoot good type of thing?
Look good, shoot good, feel good.
If I've got the confidence in it, and that's what I like, great.
Make it rain.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was looking back.
Maybe a little teasers going forward.
Let's look a little forward here because there are some big pieces of fruit just hanging on a branch like super low. Juicy fruit ripe for the picking.
Juicy fruit.
That we have not touched on yet. And
we're going to.
Most notably, we've got 3 products that I'm gonna call them that we need to do deep dive podcasts on. And the reason we haven't done those podcasts yet, and I'll name what they are here in a second. The reason we haven't done them though is I want the deck so unfairly stacked in our favor to give you the biggest picture possible, the most high resolution picture of how and why. That we don't want to prematurely go into this podcast and make it a good podcast. It'll do successful. I just want to give the listener everything, and to do so, we need one. There's a person we're waiting on, and we will coordinate that and make it happen. But those topics are the 6.5 Creedmoor.
Ever heard of it?
One time I heard about it, and I think it's a fad. Either way, we need to do.
Man-muns galore. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. 6.5 Creedmoors are great.
It's great, and we need to do a deep dive into the history and the development of that because it's a pretty interesting story on how that came to be, and then how it came to be, as our boss says, the overnight success that took 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's just an amazing product, and it's done so well for us. And we will definitely address that with a deep dive. Following right up behind that is the ELDX ELD match bullets. And in my opinion, between the 6.5 Creedmoor and the ELDX ELD match bullets, those two things, this is a weird thing to say, those two things single-handedly shaped the future of the company. The 6.5 Creedmoor, obviously, and then the ELDX ELD match bullets. Such a ground-breaking, ground-shaking breakthrough, rather. The development process, the discovery process, the use of the Doppler radar, what we learned on how to use the Doppler radar and how we apply that now. And those bullets, they keep the lights on here at Hornady.
Yeah.
We make ELD match bullets like you couldn't count them. I mean,
nonstop, multiple presses.
over and over. It's just nonstop. It's amazing. And those bullets have, like I said, really shaped the future of what Hornady has became since their development. And then lastly, the A-tip match bullet.
Yeah, a little behind the curtain on this podcast. It's recorded.
The A-tip one?
The A-tip's recorded.
Yeah.
We're just
waiting on
kind
some
of want to
stuff.
do it chronologically. So
Yep. So we're sitting on those. And as most people know, Dave Emery, a prolific name in the outdoor shooting sports world, was our senior ballistic scientist. He started his career, I believe, in 1994, and he retired, I believe, in 2016, maybe 17. And he had his hand in some huge product developments, huge. And he has recently retired from his last role, and now he's officially retired. And now we'll be able to have a chance to get him. We didn't want to record this on Zoom. We didn't want to, have this one be remote. I want him sitting in that chair so we can really tell these stories and get his specific insight with as good a quality as we can. So, in short order, those three are right at the top of the list. Do you guys have any future topics you want to address in season 2?
Well, I kind of want to take it back to the listener. We've got good traction. I think as far as podcast numbers go, we're in the upper echelon.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that word one bit now that I said it out loud, but we're up there. We want to know what you guys want to hear so we can put it out there and you guys can listen more. I mean, that's why we're doing it.
Exactly.
Do have a comment out there for folks. If you're listening or watching this, but if you're listening on Spotify, would you like a video to watch on Spotify? Maybe we could make that happen. If it's no big deal, you just watch it on YouTube, fine. That's cool too. But leave a comment below or email us at podcast@hornady.com. Would that be of benefit to you all?
Right on.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'd be interested in hearing what people out there would like. Maybe there's even more cartridge stuff we could hit on. Dive into some others.
Oh yeah, 204 Ruger, 17 HMR. All
375 Ruger. I mean, all those Ruger cartridges.
Yeah, well, a lot of those involve Dave
Emery.
also. So yeah. I don't know. I'm. It seems like even with our videos we put out on YouTube, I feel like and I hope that people come to Hornady to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of an avenue we found, and I think we just keep on hammering that.
Yep, I would have to agree. I was going to say, aside from those three topics, as a more generalized answer, I hope season 2. I hope we get notable guests and some big names in the industry, and that's fun to do and stuff. But I really hope we can continue to educate, with our ballistic study and the Ford-off stuff and the sample size stuff like that. I've really enjoyed that whole process over the last several months now, and I'm hoping, just like Judd said, I hope our listeners are using the Hornady podcast as an educational tool. That's really what I want it to be, but I also want it to be what the listeners want. I hope those two things align. But the education side of things, for me, is what I think this platform is really great at. Long form, in depth, and interactive, I guess.
Yeah. Throw it at us.
Yeah.
What do you want to learn about? We'll find an expert.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, hey, that said, you mentioned ways to comment and whatnot. This is our show season coming up
Trade shows.
here. So whether it's us at the booth or somebody else at Hornady,
when you hear
holler
this,
at us.
We'll be at the Dallas Safari Club. After that SHOT Show, we'll be there.
Yeah. And then after that, SCI. Yeah. It's a
NRA
good point, Judd.
after that. So if you're there and have feedback or just want to chat, either it's one of us will be there, or all of us, or somebody else from Hornady that would love to chat with you too. So come stop by and say hello.
That's true. That's a good point. Last year, the podcast has gotten more popular every single month. And then in some instances, orders of magnitude bigger, just like this amazing surge in popularity. So last year at the NRA show, we did some live recording podcasts, and it was cool to do that and have people be able to interact with us like, oh, that's cool. I watch your guys' show every week or whatever. That was just neat just to have people come up and appreciate the show. So, yeah, if you are at the shows, stop on by. You might actually see us recording because we plan on, recording some content at those shows. So,
Yep.
It's a great point, Judd. Well, with that, year 1 summary in review, looking to go to greener pastures in season 2. Do you guys want to leave the listener with anything else?
Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe if you would.
It's free.
It's free.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one thing that Hornady, we don't have to deal with sponsors. I mean, we got one big sponsor, and that's all we have to deal with.
Hey,
so,
I'm a sponsored shooter.
The subscribe, if nothing
Kind of.
else, or the like or the comment. Hey, it just motivates us even more to do more, to do better. So, if nothing else, hey, it gives us a little fuel in the tank to keep her going.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not easy. That's a good point. Man, we got all different schedules, and I'm traveling here, and he's traveling there, and somebody's got to coordinate this, and, do we have this, and is Jaden available? And seems like we're bootstrapping things together, and it's a lot of work sometimes. And so when we know that it's being well received, it just helps us, find that
Fuel the fire.
fuel the fire. Exactly.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, Preston, anything other than like, subscribe, comment, podcast@hornady.com.
Tell a friend.
Emails, tell a friend.
Yep.
Yep. Excellent. Well, with this, I hope you guys have a great rest of the 2022, and we will catch you in 2023.